Today we're going to rank the top 30 wide receivers for Week 2 fantasy football, looking at advanced analytics, the matchups, and how I feel about these players coming in. Before we dig in, you need to click that subscribe button right now. We're ranking the players every week to help you set your lineups. We're looking at the matchups with the must-start series. We're looking at every single game this season to help you get a good feel of how points are going to be scored. We're doing battle videos. We're looking at the waiver wire deeper than anybody else on YouTube. And then on top of that, the You Need series gives you the deep dives you need on your young players and up-and-coming players that are trending. Click that button. Stop missing out. Ric Flair's watching. If you want to be the man, click that button just like he was or is. Ja'Marr Chase is the man at number 1, and he's going to continue to be that way. You look at the targets, it was at 5. We broke down that game, and I told you that the Browns' defense is nasty. They had some good additions, some good draft picks, and they're going to be nasty this whole season. You should watch offenses against the Browns this whole season. I told you they were going to hit the under. They hit the under. I still had Ja'Marr Chase ranked high, though, because it's Ja'Marr Chase, and sometimes he just breaks the rules. We got the Jaguars here, and that's a game script from last week when they faced off against the Carolina Panthers that just broke instantly because Bryce Young, the whole team wasn't ready to play week 1, it looked like, and things just did not go well, and they were up, so the Panthers did not need to sling it. This is a matchup where the Jaguars may need to sling it with Trevor Lawrence, giving the Bengals some pushback. We might see some extra volume here for Ja'Marr Chase here in week 2. At 2, I got Justin Jefferson, mainly 7 targets, stud wide receiver, keeping the stud wide receivers up there. We're not getting cute. We got the Falcons. They allowed 23.6 PPR fantasy points to Emeka Egbuka in his first game. Mike Evans got some yards, 40.6 fantasy points. Last week, the wide receivers. I expect this game script to be lit. Justin Jefferson, just a stud that you should never bench. I expect him to get targets. At 3, I got CeeDee Lamb. And we got a Giants matchup here. They had a weird matchup last week against Washington, but I expect CeeDee Lamb to get a lot of targets. I expect this game to be back and forth. I expect CeeDee Lamb to get those points that you need. At 4, I got Puka Nacua. We got Tennessee on the road. A little bit nervous about this matchup. I think this could be a very scrappy team. This could be a very scrappy game. That could hurt Puka. That could also help Puka because he's a big play machine. Cortland Sutton scored 18.1 on him last week. I look for Puka to rack up targets. Maybe it's around the 8 to 10 range if this is a scrappy game. But I look for him to be solid. You ain't benching Puka. At 5, I got Brian Thomas Jr. I'm in on the Jaguars-Bengals matchup. I expect this one to be high scoring. Vegas has a 49.5 over-under. So I'm looking at all Bengals players and Jaguars players a little bit closely as starts this week. I look for Brian Thomas Jr. to get right. I look for this to be a scrap in a high-scoring way. Cedric Tillman scored 16.2 against Cincinnati last week. Brian Thomas Jr. is better than that. We all know that. We're going to see some fireworks in this matchup. 6, I got Malik Neighbors. We're watching him from afar. It's against the Dallas Cowboys. He's going to get a lot of targets. There's going to be upside in this matchup. They did slow down the Eagles a little bit, but it ain't going to continue. They're going to target Malik Neighbors a lot. He's going to get a lot of work and opportunity. 7, I got Nico Collins. I'm a tiny bit low on him, but not much. I'm pretty much trending correctly. That offensive line of the Texans, you got to watch that. Tampa Bay is going to allow some points to the Texans. 13.5 to Drake London. Nico should see something similar. It's all about the deep ball and bringing it in. I don't think Nico's going to be stifled every single week. That's just week 1. 5 targets, 3 balls caught, 25 yards. We got a 44.5 over under. We could smash the over in this matchup. Definitely could see some fireworks this week. At 8, I got Amon-Ra St. Brown. I'm pretty much right there with the curve there. And we're going up against the Chicago Bears. They were in a weird matchup last week. They held Justin Jefferson to a respectable number at 14.8. Amon-Ra St. Brown scored 8.5 last week with 6 targets. I just expect him to be over 5 targets in this game. I expect him to get workload. I do not expect him to be stifled. I expect him to get to that 12 to 15 point range this week, and I expect him to be very safe. At 9, I'm high on Marvin Harrison Jr. I am very high on him. Fantasy Pros has him at 15. I got him at 9. It's the Carolina Panthers. They're straight up leaking fantasy points unless they break early, which they did, and they also had some weather delays in that game. But that being said, Marvin Harrison Jr. should be a lock for 6, 7, 8 targets in this game. Should be getting deep targets downfield. Should be getting plenty of opportunities. And this is a matchup where he could go off. And if he's taking that year 2 ascension, this is one of those games where he has to go off for that to happen, or it's going to be a rocky road throughout the season. 10, I got Ladd McConkey. The big thing about Ladd McConkey is we might be looking at the carousel effect where any wide receiver, Quentin Johnson, Keenan Allen, or Ladd McConkey, could be getting it on any given Sunday. We got the Raiders on the road, 44.5 over under. Kayshon Boutte hung 16.3 on them. It could be a Ladd McConkey game because he should be one of the first looks, first targets, 4.3 speed, 9 targets last week. They could be spreading it around too. I look for him to get volume, opportunity, and I'm right around consensus. Mike Evans. I'm high on Mike Evans this week. I like this Tampa Bay-Houston game. I think it's a sneaky stack for DFS. I think it could hit the over here, and I think Mike Evans is going to get deep targets. Had 8 targets last week. Should be well over 5 again this week. Should be pushing 10. Could even have more than that. Puka Nacua hung 23.1. Mike Evans, if he brings in one of those deep balls, should be cash city. 12, I got Drake London. And I am watching him from afar, but we also got a good matchup against Minnesota. If Drake London had a clean bill of health going into this week, he'd be ranked higher. I'd be high on him because of the target share, the opportunity. 15 targets last week. I can't be super low on him, especially when they allowed 15.7 points to Rome Odunze. Drake London, I'm still putting him in lineups if he's out there. Jackson Smith-Njigba at 13. Garrett Wilson went off, but he was getting all the targets against Pittsburgh. On top of that, they did allow 31.4 PPR fantasy points to wide receivers. Jackson Smith-Njigba is getting all the targets. This could be very comparable to Garrett Wilson. He could have another big game this week. This could be a slow game script that could run bad for him. But nonetheless, he should get 25 to 30% of the targets. He should get more than 5 targets. And the chips will lay how it may with that. At 14, I got A.J. Brown. I'm actually down on him, even though I got him ranked with consensus here. I don't like this matchup. Any other week, I'd be higher than this on him. I like A.J. Brown. I look for him to get more targets than 1 every week. I look for him to get easy 5+ targets. It was a weird matchup against the Cowboys. The thing about the Chiefs, it's another weird matchup. I'm actually down on A.J. Brown. Usually most weeks I'm up, especially with a 46.5 over under. Quentin Johnston did score on KC, but that was a weird game script with injuries and stuff early in that matchup. You got to keep that in mind with context. I'm down on him. 15, Courtland Sutton. I'm always going to be high on Courtland Sutton. He's always going to be one of the top wide receivers in air yards and opportunity with targets. That's going to lend the notion that we can hit big on any given Sunday. I'm a little bit higher than consensus on him. I don't really care about game script. That was a nasty game script against Tennessee. We should have a better one on the road here. Bo Nix threw 2 picks last week. That could corrupt his scoring. 16, I got T. Higgins. I actually forgot to rank him and I had to throw him in. We got 31 instead of 30, guys. But T. Higgins, 16. I love this matchup. I'm lower in ranking, but it is really hard to fit him in when you're higher on some of the other guys. I actually really do like him. But wide receiver 2 next to Chase, I have tepid levels. I think we can hit that 11-point threshold of T-Mac did last week, with Jamar Chase still being able to bang out his production. I am in on Bengals and Jaguars. At 17, I got Emeka Egbuka. I'm high on him. I think he's going to be the man. I think he's easily going to get 5+ targets. I think this is going to be a good matchup where the game script lights on fire. I am in on Bucks Texans this week. And when I'm looking at the 44.5 over under, it could push to that number or hit the over. And I look for it to break one way or the other. Either Baker Mayfield starts slinging it, or CJ Stroud gets right some way, shape, or form. You're looking at Houston. They allowed 23.1 to Puka Nacua last week. It was a scrappy game script. I do not expect this one to be scrappy. I expect this one to break a little bit. 18, Garrett Wilson. A little bit lower than consensus, but I recognize that he's going to get all the targets. He should push to 7 to 10 targets in this game. Should be roughly safe. You're not benching Garrett Wilson. I like this matchup. I think this game is also very dangerous due to the running attack of the Jets, where they could potentially slow it down. And if it doesn't break that way, it could be bad for the wide receivers on the Jets side, mainly Garrett Wilson. But I can also see him getting 7 to 10 targets, this flying wide open. Like, there's a Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde to this game. Like, it could split one way or the other because the Bills can put up points. The Jets showed themselves a little bit last week. They like to run the ball. They like to be faster paced with it. This could be a fun game, and this game is going to be a testament to the rest of the season with the Jets. But I'm not low on Garrett Wilson. The ranking's low. I'm actually feeling like he's very safe this week. Ted McMillan, I got him ranked at 19. Fantasy Pros got him at 22. I'm semi-high on him, but still a little tepid. I feel like we're going to get our touchdown. We're going to get a lot of targets. We're going to get a lot of unnecessary targets too because they're just going to sling it up to him. We're on the road to Arizona, and this team might be lighting it on fire every week. We do have 43.5 over-under. Kind of suggests that. But he's always going to get the work. He's going to be getting targets. He's going to have a high snap rate. At 20, I got DK Metcalf. He's easily going to get more than 5 targets. He's going to be like 7 to 10 range. But we need to hit that end zone. 4 catches, 83 yards. It's fine, but it's not enough to rank you higher, especially when we might have a slower game script here with Seattle. If Seattle looks at what the Jets did last week and just decides to run the football and keep that clock moving, and if that happens, we might have what we were predicting for the Jets before that game just broke out, because that ain't going to always happen, and they may just clog it up with the running backs. I think DK Metcalf is safe. I think the upside needs to hit with the touchdowns, though. At 21, I got George Pickens. I'm going to say this every week with George Pickens. He's either going to get you 6 points, 5 points, or 25 or 26. He's either getting you your 20 spot or he's getting you a 5-piece. That's all that's going to happen with George Pickens this year. There will be a few games where he gets you 10, 12, 13, 14. There will be a few of those. But when you're setting lineups, you got to have the strategy in mind that he's either going to get you 5 or he's going to get you 25 because he's getting deep targets downfield, pass interference calls, overthrown, extra coverage over top, but he brings it in, and he brings in a couple of those. He's getting you that 25. If those scenarios happens, he's getting you that 5. I don't even know if the matchups really matter for George Pickens. Devontae Adams, I like him. I'm a little bit lower than consensus. 8 targets last week. I look for him to be around that range in targets again. I look for him to get opportunities. I like Devontae Adams. I'm very confident starting him. At 23, I got Zay Flowers. And this is going to be a weird matchup here because we got the Browns and that Browns defense. That Brown defense needs to be tested more. It's just one game, but I think it's going to be very nasty. That could slow him down. That could slow down Henry a little bit. They got a 45.5 over-under in this matchup. I would not be surprised if we hit the under again. I think with the Browns over-unders, Vegas is going to start putting them under 40 every single game once we get a few more weeks into the season. They're going to be in some slobber knocker matchups here. They're going to be losing a lot of these games, but that defense is going to at least make these games a little bit interesting with Joe Flacco slinging the rock. JMO, 24, upside dandy. I get it, 6.6 last week, but we got 5 targets. We also got the Bears, who was okay against Justin Jefferson and was pretty good against the Vikings, but it was J.J. McCarthy's debut. Now you're looking at JMO here, deep ball city, running a lot of snaps, running a lot of routes. I like JMO this week. I'm higher than consensus. DJ Moore at 25. I'm a little bit low on him. I just don't trust this offense all the way. You're looking at this game script. You're looking at what the Lions did last week. They held the Packers in check, but they've been held in check 2 weeks in a row now. You're looking at DJ Moore with just 5 targets. It's kind of spreading around a little bit more. Caleb Williams is kind of been a little bit chaotic, but yet kind of controlled in some of these scenarios. We're on the road here. I think he's okay to start, but I'm also mindful that it could also run bad. 26, Calvin Ridley. So we got a rookie quarterback. It's always going to make this volatile, but he's getting a lot of targets. He got 8. He's always getting deep targets downfield. He's going to be a volatile wide receiver pretty much for the rest of his career until he's out, That's what he's been these last few years. So that volatility could happen on any given Sunday, and those down games are going to just be there. At 27, I got Keon Coleman. I am high on him. We have a game script here. Bills-Jets, 46.5 over-under. He got 11 targets last week. All his targets are deep. So when I look at Keon Coleman and I strategize with him, I kind of got that George Pickens vibe where he's either going to get you 25 or 5. And if we're doing that with players like that and we're ranking them higher, like George Pickens, T. Higgins, and we're always doing that, then why not Keon Coleman, who's already proven that he can soak up targets? He's definitely proven he can get the deep ball. So I got him at 27. We got a matchup here, 46.5 over under. They got to be creative against this defense. Keon Coleman allows you to be creative around the red zone, downfield. Like, he's not their locked-in one. They got more of a carousel effect here with the wide receivers. So it's not like he's a locked-in wide receiver one, which actually plays well to his strengths as just being the deep ball dandy. I got him at 27, and I'm going to have him high a lot of these weeks. 28, Ricky Pearsall. We're watching the quarterback situation. Obviously, I'm a little bit lower than consensus due to that. 7 targets last week. We also got the Saints on the road. That team could break badly on any given Sunday with Spencer Rattler until we get more clarification on what he really is. Really, from college, we know, but we want to know the NFL version. Ricky Pearsall, though, 7 targets, getting work. You can't push him down too low due to the quarterback play because it could run good if he gets spammed. Tyreek Hill. I'm low on him. I just don't trust the Dolphins. We got a 43.5 over-under. I think there's a chance we hit the over here. Like, if I'm a gambler, I'm looking at this 43.5. I'm looking at this Dolphins secondary, and I'm looking at Drake May slinging the rock. I'm looking at Hendo getting his first score. I'm looking at that. That could push Tyreek Hill. I'm still looking to start him in most cases. I got him more as a flex than a wide receiver too. Jacoby Myers. Like, I expect him to get a lot of targets. And I'm not low on him. It's just there's other guys I got to be high on. Like, for me to get Keon Coleman in here, somebody's got to go down. For me to get another guy in here, somebody's got to go down. I think he's safe. I think he's reliable. I think he's going to have a good week. 31, Marquise Hollywood-Brown. 16 targets last week. We do have Philly. That's a rough matchup. They're going to have to be creative. They will be creative. I do look for him to push 10 targets in this game. I do look for him to be safe. I do look for him to be a guy that you're just plugging away in your flex, maybe even your wide receiver too. But Marquise Hollywood-Brown's good to go this week. Those are the top 31 rankings at wide receiver. I do not have the Thursday night game in there for obvious reasons. It is Friday. So that would not make sense. I talked about those wide receivers in yesterday's must-start video anyway, so you knew what to do with those. But let me know what you think in the comments below. I want to hear about that. Make sure you hit that subscribe button on the way out. Well, thank you for watching. Catch you on the next video.